How different will Kamala Harris be from Joe Biden as president? Well, Joe Biden's going to try and speak to this. So I found this article here. This is from the Associated Press. Biden says Harris will cut her own path as president, and her perspective will be fresh and new. President Biden on Tuesday said Kamala Harris would cut her own path once she wins the election, allowing for more daylight between him and his vice president as she works to win over skeptical voters 3 weeks before Election Day. Quote, Kamala will take the country in her own direction, and that's one of the most important differences in this election, he said. Kamala's perspective on our problems will be fresh and new. Donald Trump's perspective old and failed, and quite frankly, thoroughly, totally dishonest. Well, I will say, I don't think that Donald Trump's perspective in 2024 is the same as it was in 2016. I think that in basically every way, it's worse. I think he actually wants to be a dictator now, whereas in 2016, that was less apparent and not the case. But now he wants revenge. In 2016, he wasn't necessarily motivated by revenge, but a desire to shake up the establishment, even though he didn't really do that. But yeah, he's definitely more amped to hire up some loyalists this time around. So in that sense, I think you could say both Harris and Trump are offering some fresh perspectives. Trump's not so fresh in a good sense, though. But let's keep reading. Biden's comments may give Harris more license to stake out her own political and policy stakes in the critical closing phase of the presidential race and appear to go further to distance the two than Harris has herself. That's definitely true. I mean, she's kind of saying she's a lot like Joe Biden and wouldn't do anything different. The vice president's aides have privately expressed some frustration that the president has been too focused on his own legacy and not the race to succeed him. But Harris has of late faced increasing pressure to articulate how she'd govern differently from Biden, a question trickier than it seems on the surface. While Biden's favorability ratings remain underwater, some of the biggest pieces of his legislative agenda, from infrastructure to lowering the cost of prescription drugs, are popular, and signaling any daylight with the president on foreign policy at a time of global crises could be seen as reckless. Harris herself has been loath to do anything that could be perceived as disloyal to Biden, who elevated her from a first-term senator to the vice presidency and then handed the reins of his political operation over to her, endorsing Harris when he dropped out of the race in July. I think that's kind of an important part of it, don't you? I mean, the gratitude thing. So yeah, she probably doesn't want to be like, yeah, I would have done this differently. Sorry, Joe, you were wrong on this. I would have done the Afghanistan differently. I would have done this executive order differently or that. So yeah, she's not necessarily saying what's on her mind, I think, when she says that she wouldn't be different. I think that's fairly clear, and I think that's fairly common among all politicians, is they keep some things in their head, and what they keep in their head is totally different from what they say out loud. She's brushed off questions about how she would be different than the Democratic president, saying, I'm not Joe Biden, but has offered few specifics. At the same time, she tries to seize the handle of being the candidate who would bring positive change to the country, largely relying on being of a different generation than both Biden and Trump. I don't know how much the age difference thing really plays it. Like, you're of a different age, so what? I don't know. There's old progressives, there's old conservatives, there's young conservatives, there's young progressives, there's middle-aged right-wingers, middle-aged left-wingers, what, you know. I just don't know why bringing up age is that helpful. Harris last week in an interview with Howard Stern said she couldn't think of a move made by Biden that she would have decided differently, a line that was featured prominently by Trump at rallies and online. She later offered that she would, unlike Biden, select a Republican for her cabinet if elected. So yeah, that's kind of her extending an olive branch to the GOP, to milquetoast centrist Republican types who are turned off by Trump but don't know if they want to affirmatively vote for Harris. She's saying, no, you can't affirmatively vote for me, and you'll get a Republican representing you in my administration. So let me know in the comments what you think of that strategy. There's obviously pros and cons to that. You risk alienating progressives, but you also could actually win over Republicans. So it's difficult to say. I don't know if it would be something that would decide the election necessarily. On Tuesday, Biden spoke in the hall of the Sheet Metal Workers International Association in Philadelphia, pumping up a slate of local candidates like Senator Bob Casey before a vibrant crowd. Boys in button-down shirts and kente cloths stood alongside women who leaned on canes. They sat at tables adorned with red, white, and blue balloons and ate from plastic plates crowded with meatballs and kielbasa and bread rolls. Quote, "Every president has to cut their own path. That's what I did," Biden said to a crowd that chanted, "Thank you, Joe. I was loyal to Barack Obama, and I cut my own path as president. That's what Kamala's going to do." Yeah, so I think this could be an instance of him trying to give Kamala Harris a little bit more discretion in how she runs her campaign, even though she does have full discretion, but he's saying, hey, you can feel free to say you disagree with me on something, you know? You were loyal to me, and you still are, but you're allowed to have a different opinion. That's totally normal in politics. The Democrats tend to understand this better than the Republicans do, let's face it. But yeah, I think that there's a little bit of 3D chess going on here from Biden. Some people might disagree with me, but yeah. Let me know in the comments what you think of this story, how you think Kamala Harris would be different than Joe Biden. Do you think she'd be better or worse, and on which issues? As always, if you liked this video or found it interesting or insightful, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. I really want to grow this channel. I'm pushing these election videos nonstop this season. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video.